Is There More is the podcast where creators share how their darkest moments became the breakthroughs that changed everything. We're building a space for raw stories, deep connection, and real hope for everyone who's still writing their story. Brought to you by Dialogue Life Skills, the world's scalable solution to the teen and young adult mental health crisis. I'm your host, Megan A. Tully, and I'm listening. If you're here on YouTube, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated. It really helps the channel out, and I really appreciate your support. If you're here with us on Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the channel, and please leave a review. Today's guest is AJ Mester, a very prolific director and cinematographer, and this episode felt like a full circle moment. AJ and I worked together years ago on an experimental short film called Footsie, and it's still my #1 viewed YouTube video on the internet. Since then, AJ's built an incredible career as a director and cinematographer, working at an incredibly high level, specifically for Skechers and on multiple Super Bowl commercials. But what I love most about AJ is how grounded he is in what actually matters. This conversation is for every filmmaker, actor, or creative person who's trying to build a real career without losing themselves along the way. Let's get into it. Wow, it's been so long since we saw each other.
I know. It's funny. I'm going through making these posts, as you've seen, and I've been digging through all like my old hard drives and just like trying to find like everything. And it was funny. I came across Footsie, like some stills from Footsie, and then you just happened to like message me, like I think like the next day or two after that I found it. So I think it was kind of kismet. So
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
yeah.
Footsie. Wow. That was like 2019.
Yeah, yeah, and looking at those stills, I just remember how fun of a project that was to collaborate on, because I think like we really got a chance to just like find something that was visually captivating, like in a lot of different ways, and where we shot it and who we shot it with, and just sort of the coverage and the way we chose the progression of all that. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was very like experimental, and I just remember being like, thank God AJ is here right now.
I mean,
Because
I felt the same way. Thank God I was working on that with you, because it was such a I think the concept itself and the story itself was just, I think it allowed us to kind of be able to explore more freely and more creatively, because it was such a deep sort of messaging too.
I'm excited to talk more about from then until now. I mean, I want to know like your origin story. Like, how did you get into filmmaking in the first place? What really brought you to want to either study that or just pursue that?
The first time that I feel that I recognized the impact of what a visual piece of art could do, to be honest, it was Michael Jackson videos. Like back in the day, I don't know if you remember this, but like when Michael Jackson released a music video, it was an event. Like my parents would like record it on VHS, because it would be like he would release a music video, but it would also come with like, it was like a short film, because it was more of a extended video that then ultimately got shortened for like MTV and whatnot. But it had like behind the scenes, and it obviously had amazing filmmakers involved in all of those videos as well. And so it just made it feel so cinematic. And music videos were just that back in the day, and I wore those VHS tapes out like every single time. And so I think the when it really started to catch on was when iMovie came out. My family always had like an Apple computer, just from a family friend who was, who dealt in Macintosh. And so when iMovie came out, I just had this burst of inspiration making like little shorts with my friends. And so I write and direct, and then we would stay and we'd shoot it all in one day. And then we'd stay up all night drinking like Mountain Dew and like basically editing these little, these funny little shorts together. And so that's when I was like, oh, like I like doing this. And then when I actually realized that it was a job, a thing that you could actually do with your life, was in senior year of high school. And had just found out, like, after being at the high school for 4 years, that they had a TV studio program that was actually a really acclaimed program in the state. And so I joined that. And because I had already had some experience with making content and editing it, I kind of excelled right away. So I took after high school, I took 2 years and did community college just to kind of suss it out. I got a lot of good, advice to kind of say, if you go to community college, you get to, take care of some gen eds. Once I had that 2 years of community college, I was like, okay, I did it. Like I need to. I'm getting antsy now. So I took a swing at broadcast school. There was a school in Michigan called Ferris State. So I went there, and I actually during that time I have what's called ulcerative colitis, an autoimmune disease, and so during that time I actually had a really bad flare up, and it kind like I was there, I was actually crushing it because I started taking summer courses right away, and again because of my knowledge on creating videos and working in with the types of programs early on, I was able to kind of excel there. But it kind of got dampened pretty quick, and I was in the hospital for like 4 weeks.
With your ulcerative colitis, do you find that like flares up a lot whenever you're like under stress, or has it been very easy for you?
When it's when it hasn't been easy, it hasn't been easy. I luckily have essentially diagnosed as a mild ulcerative colitis.
Yeah, good.
So I don't get flare-ups often, but when I do, they're tough. Ulcerative colitis is like ulcers inside of your intestines. And so like it hurts. Like it hurts to one to just move at all, and you definitely can't eat food because it hurts to digest. I don't drink milk straight up. I don't drink
Yeah.
beer. I try not to eat like red meat more than once a month, and just like um even like even intermittent fasting is like good. Yeah, when I had that flare up, the last one right before I met Leah, it was like I wasn't I didn't ever have to go to the hospital, but it was different because I had it for 6 months instead of like it just being like a 4 week period. It was like 6 months of just like, what the fuck is going on? Well, I'm taking these pills and like I'm taking steroids and like, the whole thing. What is happening? I was also very consumed with work too. Like I was like basically saving all my energy only to be at work. And then
Yeah.
when work was done, I would go and I would just like curl up in bed. And honestly, like it was when the holidays came around and I finally had a break. Like I finally had like it was like Christmas time and I finally was like, okay, I'm not working for like 3 weeks. I can actually, see doctors and stuff like that. And then funny enough, last year, just over a year ago, I had a heart attack. And so that happened on January 2nd of last year. And that was interesting because it's definitely a genetic thing. My dad has had two heart attacks. Both my grandfathers passed away of heart attacks at different ages, but it was sort of I get one of those other reminders of like, yeah, I kind of either wasn't paying attention to the signs because I was more focused on my gut instead of up here, and I was thinking that this feelings that I was having were because of this, or I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, I had a heart attack, and ultimately, it was best case scenario, so I didn't have to have any surgery or anything. They put a stent in my heart, but like we moved on it pretty fast, and so there wasn't any. Right now, there's no long term damage that I've seen. It's kind of like just I was able to handle that. I think that I was able to handle that scenario because I was started to handle colitis at such a young age. It's crazy to hear about, but it doesn't feel like that big of a moment because I'm like, okay, that's just another, thing I got to deal with.
That's insane. I know you've been doing a lot of work in commercials, specifically with Skechers, or I know you've done some Super Bowl commercials. So what is your role, and like can you connect that to how that affects how you think about yourself within the whole of the project?
In the commercial space, I have worked up to being a director and a cinematographer. And a lot of the projects that I've worked on, even in the past like 8 years, 6 to 8 years, I've been both the director and the cinematographer for Super Bowl commercials, for international commercials, a lot of stuff in the commercial world. And from a narrative standpoint, I have my passion lies within cinematography. And so from a narrative standpoint, I really have tried to focus heavily on being solely a cinematographer. But I think that with the commercial space, I kind of naturally evolved into being a director, just because I feel like from a personality standpoint, it ticks a lot of boxes for me. I feel comfortable in the leadership role. I do. I think that I don't necessarily think about being a leader, but it's like I guess it's just my natural tendency to
Yeah.
want to bring together these different voices and help sort of propel the creativity forward and whatever the project is, not
Yeah.
necessarily like not necessarily under my vision solely, right? I just like I like the ability to help bring all of the different input and the different perspective and the different creative aspects together to kind of
Yeah.
help translate everybody and then go, okay, cool. I've got all your guys' input. Now let's bring it forward like this. And so I think that that's why I kind of naturally stepped into that role for that client I was working for, have been working for so long, because I think that they saw that too.
Yeah.
And so it's funny. It's like it's doing both on set comes with its own internal challenges.
Yeah.
Um, but man, do I like the challenge. I mean, especially in the commercial space, it's just so like it's invigorating. It's stressful, absolutely, because I am internally battling with myself as the director and the cinematographer, going, oh man, I want to take the time to light this shot and I want it at this time of day because this would be like the best looking shot. And then my director brain goes, yeah, but you have like 5 other scenes you got to shoot before lunch. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I gotta switch. And then the scheduling thing, the logistics. So like I'm constantly battling myself, and I get wins on one side sometimes, and I get wins on the other side sometimes. Sometimes I get both at the same time. But it's been like a boot camp in a way, and it's really informed how to be a better collaborator, because I'm collaborating with myself,
Yeah.
but also I'm learning and understanding all the different aspects, not just the one, like, right? Like as a cinematographer, you're still a manager of that department, right? The camera grip and lighting department. But I think that it really opened up more on how to collaborate with other people. Because when I was younger, like I was saying, like I was writing, directing, shooting, editing, I was doing the whole thing. So it took
Yeah.
me a long time actually to be able to not have the tendency to go and touch a light or to
Mhm.
move it myself, or to kind of say, this is the way I want to do it, so I'm going to do it like this, and go, oh, this person probably has a better idea than I do. They're the production designer. They're the gaffer. They're the editor. I want to talk to the editor beforehand and go, here's how I'm thinking about shooting it. They're like, actually, if you shoot it like this, I can edit together. And like, oh, okay, great. I
Yeah.
have a little bit more of like a well-rounded experience. Um, and I also think it then brings into the idea of like, that's why in narrative, I really want to be able to dive into just solely being a cinematographer, and go, now that I have that experience, and I as a director and a cinematographer on such a high level commercially, to take that and go, I know exactly what to do as a cinematographer in a narrative space, and I get to sink my teeth in a little bit more. But I also do feel like, um although I had sort of reached a level of being a director sooner than I expected, I know that I want to keep expanding on that. even from a narrative standpoint, if the right project comes along and somebody trusts me enough to take that story as a director, then I would like jump at the opportunity, absolutely. But yeah, I think like being in that role and working at that level, it really taught me how to be a better collaborator.
Mm. Okay, and this so I can be a director. But you're kind of saying being a director is helping me be a better cinematographer. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think that's part of like being a good leader is to understand all those roles that are, that you're sort of overseeing, right? And so I think like especially battling with myself as a cinematographer too, like I sort of have that, I sort of have that insight of going, what was I trying to achieve and how can I achieve that better? How can I win as a cinematographer more? And I'm talking to myself, right? Is that I'm going, how can I get myself that shot? How can I get myself into the position of getting there, and then understanding then opposite, like as a cinematographer going, what does a director need, like how can I support that to get the project done, and especially when you're working at like in such a fast paced environment and basically working on these big scales with celebrities and stuff, time is absolutely money. And so like being able to walk into a narrative space, which you have the illusion of time because you get time with the project, you get many days to shoot it, but there's
Mhm.
still a lot of time, there's still a lot of things to get done in the day. And
For sure.
so I think like it's just this idea of time management and understanding like like understanding why somebody would be fighting for that as a director. Like I'm going, yeah, I have to, as a cinematographer, I have to serve the story, but I also have to make sure the director gets what they need to for the vision that they're trying to, achieve. And so like fighting with myself in that took that understanding, took it to that understanding. And so like I think that I'm much more suited to handle that role in the narrative space much more because I'm sort of got the boot camp on a very like crammed in time period of a 30-second commercial. So
Got you. Okay. So you almost have like more empathy for both the director and the cinematographer because you're now seeing it from both ends. So I
yeah,
think that's really really interesting. One of my mentors, he told me like I was like, why do you even put me in leadership positions? I don't want to be a leader. Like, I
yeah,
hate
yeah,
like it's not that I hate responsibility. I just, don't feel like I want to be in charge of people at all. Like, but weirdly enough, like people always put me in charge of like everything. So from the time I was like in class, I was, leading like workshops, and then I got to like, track or basketball. I was always like team captain. I would always be like, no, I don't want. But it was like always a thing in my life. Like you're the leader, and I would be like, what the, so
again,
I
yeah,
know, like, I hated it. So over time, I'm like, okay, I know I'm gonna, I know I gotta like grapple with this. And so I finally asked my mentor now, I was like, why do you put me in leadership roles? I
right,
guess I'm still like kind of young to lead or whatever, but it's like I feel like, leadership requires a lot of self-development. Like essentially that's like pretty much it. And so I asked him that and he was like, the honest answer is I want you to have more empathy for leaders. And I was like, because I'm such like I'm a biggest like, I'm like more of the cinematographer, right? Like, well, why do we have to do this? I know it's gonna be better this way. And it's like, okay, but you only know what you know. Like you don't know what the other person knows. And
yeah,
I think this year I've a little bit started to understand, okay, like I need to have more respect, for leaders in other levels because even though I think I know something, it doesn't mean that it's, the right way or better or even true. So that's very interesting having to kind of, yeah, battle with yourself in that arena. but it's, it's crazy because I love how you call it a boot camp because you're really like on that. You're on a time clock. You're under pressure. Like you have celebrities in the room. You have budgets to be aware of. You have, all this stuff. So it's like a do or die kind of moment.
Yeah, right.
What in the world do you think prepared you for that? Just years of experience, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was years of experience. I think it was following like the gut, right? I think one going back to another part of, your mentor, I'm sure a part of this is that in a lot of times in a lot of situations the best leaders are the ones that don't want to be leaders ultimately, and I think that that is like a big thing, and but also the aspects I do feel prepared me for that were that continual drive that I had sort of my whole life to want to like do this, like the burning desire to like, want to do something bigger than self, but also that feels like that I'm basically contributing, from a creative standpoint. But also, I think it really is just like a personality thing too. Like I thrive in the environment of wanting to bring those pieces and those connective tissues together, right? I love that. I love that environment of collaboration. And if nobody else like knows how to bring it together or doesn't, I mean, all right, I'll raise my hand, I'll go do it, I'll try it, absolutely. And so I think that that was what ultimately put me in that position. Was I was saying yes to the opportunity even though it scared the shit out of me, right? It's like, wait a second, we got to do this commercial with that celebrity. Oh, okay, all right, let's do it. I don't know, like, and then ultimately, you know relying on the relationships and the connections that you have, right? I think as a leader too, you kind of need to be humble in the idea that you don't know everything and that you do have all of these other amazing creative people around you to kind of say, all right, guys, here's the goal, right? I've got the brief. We got to make this 30-second commercial. Here's the script. Like, I'm trying to get from here to here. How do we do that? Right. And then so like somebody like will say, whether it be like the cinematographer or the production designer or the gaffer or whoever, or the editor, even visual effects, you kind of like make that the collaborative space. And then ultimately you go, okay, cool. That's going to work for what I know that where we need to go. That's going to work here. And you can kind of piece it all together. So I just think that I think the main thing is that I thrive off that collaboration.
Was there something that you were like, I know a lot of people talk about like, I'm running, like my experience going to LA was more of like, I was trying to get as far away from like my family and my hometown as I possibly could. And I
Yeah.
just got opportunities that I just said yes to. So it's completely different than your experience. But was there something like a goal in your mind that you were running towards, or was it like, I just want to get the away from this, or I just want to ignore this, or was it like, I want this goal?
I was both running from and towards. The goal I was running towards was um trying to figure out what this burning fire inside of me is sort of leading me towards. And so I was trusting my gut in a lot of ways. And every single time I made a big decision to go to broadcast school or or move to Chicago to go to film school and then move to LA, it was this sort of like, my gut is just, there's something about it that's going, go here, go this way.
Mm.
And saying yes, right? Saying yes to these opportunities that are sort of presenting themselves. um, but I think I was running from being in a small town. I think I was running from like being stuck in a small town, and this idea that I knew there was something bigger, and I just know that I didn't. I know that staying there wasn't going to lead me towards what was sort of, building up inside of me.
Wait, and where did you grow up? What's the small
I
town?
grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan,
Okay.
and ultimately, it's a small town outside of Grand Rapids, Rockford, Michigan.
Was there somebody in your life, like, at an early age or maybe in the middle there that was, like that gave you the confidence to, like, "You can do it, like, you can leave your hometown, you can go study film," like, was there one person that you would attribute that kinda, like, passion to do whatever you wanna do to?
Yeah, I think that family played a huge role in that. My mom and my dad were both very supportive. My dad said something that I have sort of lived by, and in that time period of my life, he said, "Get out while you can." Like, when he was younger, he got drafted essentially, and he got out to go and see the world. And he was more of like a paper pusher during the war. And he said, even though I'm sure deep down it was like, as my dad and me being his son, he didn't want me to leave, but he knew that, go out there, get out there while you can, and go make mistakes. And as long as you learn from those mistakes, that's the biggest sort of value that you can find as you're exploring, other parts of what this life is. So I think that nudge was always something that drove me, and just knowing, like, I think I was given permission, or given like an understanding that you have to go and try. You have to go and make mistakes. You have to go to find any sort of, like, path that you're wanting to go down. And then going back to, like, recognizing it's never too late to start over. Like, that was also, part of that as well, is, he was essentially saying, go out and try it. If it doesn't work, oh well, right? Did you learn something from it? Did you get, like, take that and go do something else, and don't be afraid that it didn't work out? I think that was a huge driving force in being able to recognize how to move through that. I also think that my family in general, is very supportive. Like, a lot of my family members have a vast sort of cultural, worldly perspective, just from the experiences they have. Like, my aunt is a pretty prolific artist. Has done sculptures for people all over the world, and my one of my other aunts has traveled the world multiple times, and sort of, like, I think, like, being able to have experiences through their lenses as well, like, didn't make it as scary to take leaps, and go, oh, I've seen that before, or, oh, that's something that I want to try.
Did you see Marty Supreme?
I did.
Do you think your blind ambition, I'm sure it wasn't extreme as his, but do you feel like it I mean, maybe it was, who knows? But do you feel like it affected your relationships, especially your earlier relationships, when you were like, "Okay, I'm gonna leave home and I'm gonna go for this goal, like, no matter what." How did that have an effect on your relationships, if any?
Nobody had the same ambitions that I did. My gut was leading me somewhere, whether their gut was leading them a different place. And I felt bad. I definitely have felt bad about what that journey has led to, the evolution of, like, friendships and relationships over the years. But relationships with and connections with people, they I don't wanna say it ultimately serves a purpose. It's just like, you have an intersection with somebody, or people, and you have crossed paths for a reason. You're living in those moments with those people, and getting the most out of those connections, because you never know how long they're gonna last, and not really trying to be sad about the time that you don't have together anymore, and making the most of the time that you do have together. I think that's true of any relationship, really. Any connection is like presence, because you never know how long it's going to last. And I do have, like, some remorse in some ways, because you look back fondly on those times with, like, with those friendships, with those connections, and go, man, I wonder how that person's doing. But I even think that thought is enough to vibrate, sort of that energy back, and sort of find, like, its own, connection too. So yeah, it's
What do you think the number one way to determine what you're supposed to do with one of those kind of like touch point connections and make it productive is?
Be present. I think being present in and being open to it. Like, right, you don't know what you're gonna get. You don't know why you've sort of crossed paths with this person. Um, and I think that you want to just be open to the idea that there's some sort of like connection here. There's some reason why, if you are truly following your instinct, or your, I guess, like your own inhibition, or in like in your no, I should say that differently.
Maybe instinct.
If
Yeah,
you're
that
your instinct, right? Like if you're really truly following your own instincts in that, you're it's meant to be, right?
was there ever a time where like you, maybe it's like you or one of your friends that you were working with or just any job you were on, you guys were going towards the goal and you're going to make this thing and everybody's on the same page, but then somebody's maybe like ego or own aspiration got in the way and the project like either failed, stalled out, or you guys made it through the conflict. Can you think of a time like that?
Hmm. It's hard to it's funny, it's hard to think about a specific time, because I think it happens all the time. I think once I got out to LA and actually got into the industry and worked in a professional environment, there's so many projects where that happened. As part of the lesson that I've sort of learned, and I'm sort of revisiting at that in these Instagram posts that I'm making, is like there is so much about that this journey so far that I didn't really, sometimes I didn't jive with it, or sometimes it was like I felt that I was sort of being stamped out, or you know or that I didn't agree with the direction. But then you ultimately go, well, we got to make this thing anyways, right? We got to do this, and I have a job to do. I have a responsibility to do, especially when it's at the level that I've been playing at.
Meeting your partner now was one of like the joys of your life. Can you tell me more about that?
I think I think to start, I thought I was the hardest working person that I knew, and am now pleasantly wrong about that. Leah is one of the hardest people that I know. Like her passionate drive to knowing what she wants to do, knowing what she needs to do to get there, and just having an endless imagination and endless creativity is like, it's mind blowing, like it's inspiring, really. And so I think that, especially when I've got to the point in my career that I had, it shows that there's still so much more that you can do, and not even just in the industry, right? Like, I think that, especially solely from just having your person and your partner to go through life with, and go, oh, the career isn't the only important thing, or potentially not even the important thing at all. It is like this relationship that this extremely once in a lifetime unique relationship that I'm creating with this person for the rest of my life, and going, oh, that's almost the new goal, right? Is to learn how to be selfless, and to learn that, you know that this you're not doing it alone either. So I think that meeting her was just like, at this time in my life, um was just like the happiest and proudest moment, that I feel like I did it. It makes everything else feel so much easier. It makes everything less scary. It makes everything like, you not necessarily that I completed that part, because that it almost has just started this new journey, this bigger journey, that I'm going, okay, this is what I need to actually work towards, is like, is being being selfless and being a true partner with somebody in life, and then everything else is going to kind of come along with that, right?
Why did you decide to start the commercial break?
I'm starting this series, The Commercial Break. It's sort of a little bit of a play on words, because I'm reflecting on the past 14 years of work, and since I moved to LA, I basically have been working with this one company, Skechers, for almost 14 years now. And the commercial break is sort of like one, taking the break to look back and reflect, because
Mhm.
my theme, right, has been to look back and reflect, and I haven't truly done that in a long time. It also gave me a big break, right, in my career.
Nice.
And also just like a break in everybody else's regular programming, to kind of like stop and say, hey, if you want to read about this, if you want to, sort of get insight about, my experience individually, this is going to be great. And so I'm definitely at this point in my career where I know that there is another big change, another big chapter that is starting to form. Anybody who's in the industry knows that it is shifting. There is a big shift, bigger, like, it was one of the bigger shifts I think we've experienced. I mean, we've had strikes, we've had pandemics, we've had, this, I mean, we've had a lot of things that have sort of, even streaming, right? AI, like, we've had a lot of big things sort of like swinging the pendulum a little bit further. And so I'm taking this time, even though I'm still working with this client. I think it's like I've been like, it was like heads down. Like, I was like doing 3 commercials a month for like 3 years straight. It felt like,
Wow.
I mean, not it felt like, in some, it was very really, we were doing so much content, and so I didn't take the time, I didn't have the time, or I didn't create the time to acknowledge the work that I'd done. I think that I also lost track of, um, truly what I've learned from that growth, because it all felt like it was happening so fast. I was just like, cool. I was doing BTS, and then I was the cinematographer, and then I was the director, then I was the director and the cinematographer, and then we were doing celebrity commercials, and then and then Super Bowl commercials. So everything was sort of like compounding, and I just forgot to go, oh yeah, that's what I've done. Or I was like some even projects, I was like, I don't even know if I like that. Did I even get what I wanted out of that? Do I feel proud of that work? And then once I thought about it and started thinking about, like, almost like journaling out, like, what that project was like and what I felt in that time and how I feel now about it, and going, oh, actually, now that I'm looking at it from a whole, now I'm like zooming out a little bit and going, that project actually informed that project and led, like, it gave me the deeper insight on how to approach something like that for the
Yeah.
next time, or even recognizing that I actually did that project, because I almost like put it out of the back of my head as like, I don't really like that, I'm not going to share it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's therapeutic in a way to take time to reflect. And I think I got out of character a little bit by not taking the time to reflect, and recognizing that at these big sort of life changing moments or life changing periods, it's best to just take the time to reflect, instead of like being like so focused on how to move forward. It
Mm.
almost, like, by looking back, it sort of informs how to move forward, if you're like just
Yeah.
really trying to, especially if you lose touch on that. And it's still important to make sure that I'm creating connections with the people that I'm sort of moving along with, not just the people that I have been working with. So,
Nice.
I think it's sort of another way to open up the doors and say, here's what I've been doing, here's how I experienced it, and I want to connect with people that are thinking the same way, or that need that advice, or need or want that insight, or just want to, make that connection. So,
Nice. I'm glad I asked you to be on the show then, because I'm like, you're really giving a lot of, good advice, and knowledge that I'm sure so many, especially younger people, can benefit from, right? Because the world is
Yeah.
crazy, and because you have done it all, and now you have the experience and even the resume at that high level as a both cinematographer and director, and you can do pretty much anything on set. I mean, I think that's kind of where the world is going more and more, is like we need one person who can do everything. And so
Yeah.
you're definitely like uniquely prepared to succeed in the new world. Do you think like when you were like running and just doing so much and really focused on work, did it impact your mental health at all, or did you not even like think about that at the time?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, working at that pace, it it definitely doesn't give you time for yourself and for being able to like slow down a little bit to understand like how honestly it's like I almost didn't think about it in those times, like in those times that we were just doing, you just kind of were going because you felt like there was this bigger thing that you had to achieve, and there was like this bigger responsibility. But ultimately I in a lot of times throughout that period, throughout those past years, I kind of um I kind of worked myself into like such uh, a fatigue. And honestly, like I think that's probably during those times when I felt like the projects, like I just didn't I at the time I didn't really like see or enjoy the work, because I didn't have time to enjoy it. And actually, to come back around the ulcerative colitis, there was the time right before I met Leah, my partner. I had gone into another flare up, and this one didn't put me in the hospital, but it was accumulation of stress and poor diet, not a lot of sleep, and it was also one of the probably the most jam-packed points of my career so far. Like the workload was insane, and we were just running and running and running and running. And so I think that I was also starting to slowly, like even subconsciously recognize um that fulfilled I wasn't feeling fulfilled in the idea that I wasn't connected outside of my group, essentially. And so I got into like, yeah, I got into another flare up. And then I finally took the time to sit and go back and to be internal and to only let that work like happen when it needed to, and not just be in it the entire time, and let myself take a break from it. I think that it was really eye opening, especially when it affects your physical health, not just your mental health. And you go, oh, is this actually as important as I'm putting it on a pedestal? Like, is this pedestal that I'm putting it on that important? And you go, and you realize that it's not. I think, I think especially when it's not giving you space to like take care of yourself, and to even just like take time to be with other people, and to experience like more connections and different connections, rather than just being in the same chuck. I mean, I'd be terrible in a 9 to 5, like going to a desk every day, but like at least a 9 to 5, you get to leave it at home, you get to leave it at work, and then you have a weekend. Where like the creative industry is like, you're like, even like, as a writer, director, like yourself, and an actress, and as a creative person in the industry, you can't stop yourself from being creative
Mm,
if you're really passionate about it, right? So it's like you're trying to find the balance of it, you enjoying the creative process, but then going, okay, I'm taking this, and I'm gonna make something out of it, and try to generate some sort of like, output that is successful in whatever way you want it to be successful in. And so like, I think that's what's hard about this industry itself, and this, even just being an artist. Like I think like you can't like get rid of you can't leave the work at home. The work is with you in here all the time. And so like, and because I love it so much, I was taking it with me naturally, because I was like having to, like, on my off days, I'm figuring out like, okay, I need to like think about how I'm going to approach this day. What questions do I need to ask this person? What do I want out of this? Like, how do I get a creative, like, as a cinematographer versus director, how do I get this cool shot that I saw on Instagram or that I saw on this film, or that I'm just like coming up like, within my head, I'm going, oh, how do I get through all of that? But I kind of got consumed by the pace and by having to stick with it instead of like creating the boundary for myself to be able to step away from it.
Kind of what you described in this whole episode is like you're always in the position you're in to learn something about yourself or about life or about people. And if you're present enough to be aware of that, then you get the gift, I guess, that's trying to come to you. I appreciate you sharing all of that.
I appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Is There More? If you like this video, please send it to a friend and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. If you'd like to share your story on this podcast, just send an email to megan@isttheremoreworld.com. And if you want to learn more about dialogue life skills or the work we're doing at Creators Capital, send me an email, send me a DM on Instagram @isttheremoreworld, and that's pretty much it. That was AJ Mester. I am Megan A. Tully, and this has been Is There More? Thanks for listening.